Okay, hey guys, welcome to today's NWOpening. Today I'm looking at an Elite Series. It doesn't really say it. Terry Funk. This is a pretty interesting figure. As always, I've got a little bit of a story behind this one. I did almost pick this figure up like years ago when I got my Defining Moments Austin on sale. I think he was like £12 or something, and I was just conscious of how much money I was already going to spend that day. So for some reason I decided to buy a Tito Santana for £7 instead, but whatever. So I passed on it there, and then I think I picked this up on eBay last year for, I want to say £8.50, which, let's face it, I mugged the guy. And here we are now. It's been, taking up space in my room for ages, and we've got to continue cracking on and cracking these boxes open, getting that space back. So right off the bat, there's a couple of things that I want to say about this figure. I do have a couple of criticisms. None of the issues with this figure are particularly bad, but I'm just going to talk you through them anyway. So first of all, I've never thought that this head scan is an amazing representation of Funk. I mean, if you look at him on the side, it doesn't really look too much like him. It's definitely not a bad head. It definitely doesn't knock it out of the park either, though. After that, we come to the body type. I'm not a massive fan of this body type for Funk. Admittedly, in retrospect, now I'm looking at it, like, in person, it doesn't actually look as skinny as I sort of remember it. But to be honest, it just feels a little bit skinny for Funk for me. Admittedly, I'm only more familiar with his kind of later years, but there's a reason that Jakks Pacific used the medium-large body type when they made the Terry Funk Classic Superstar, and that is because it fit him so perfectly. It was like exactly the right size for Terry Funk. It was a really good figure all round. Was the Classic Superstar, even though I never owned it. I think that's more or less it. I think that's all of my critiques regarding the figure. So let's talk about some of the cool things about it. So first of all, regarding the actual figure, the detailing is pretty great. I mean, you've got the signature Terry Funk trousers that I'm sure in a Mattel paint type is just going to scrape off the moment you take it out of the box. You've got the red headband, which is very cool. You could argue that's a third accessory, but I mean, I guess if you're a child, it's just going to get lost anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's a third accessory or not. And one of my favourite things about this figure, we'll be able to see it better when the figure's unboxed, but if I bring the camera towards him, you can see that his sort of thinning hairline is long, thin hair at the top, which you can see on the side picture as well. You can see they've put some detail into that. They haven't just given him long hair, so that's very cool. While we're here, let's have a bit of a close-up of the actual head scan. And why don't we take a quick look at the ECW title while we're here. So, here we are with the figure. We get the two accessories here. We get the ECW title, we get the Brand 9. Very cool accessories. One thing that's interesting though is the fact that they use the same picture of Terry on all three sides of this figure, all three sides of this box. Which you can see him wearing his Funk University shirt now. I feel like they could have included that as well, but this is Mattel, so quite frankly, getting any accessories is a blessing. Never mind two, so three might have been pushing it a little bit, although it has happened in the past. The ECW title actually looks really, really nice. The Mattel ECW title actually looks really, really nice, although it's kind of hard to angle it on the camera in this current setup. And the Brand 9 is just something you don't see every day. It's a very unique item for Funk to have, I suppose. I think that's more or less everything I wanted to say about the figure before looking at the figure. So let's take a look at the back, as I always do, to see if there's any incorrect information here. Well, I can't see any typos there. In the rest of the series, we get Dean Ambrose, Finn Balor, a 1-2-3 Kid flashback figure, first time in a line, because this counts as an ECW figure rather than a flashback for some reason. We have Alita, first time in a line also not a flashback apparently, and Ryback. So, yeah, fascinating series there. I'm still after that later actually, to be fair. I guess it's time to crack him open. For the first time ever, I've actually paused the recording rather than continuing to record while I'm opening the box and then just cutting it out later, and it's actually the easiest I've ever opened one of these. I mean, these boxes shouldn't be difficult to get into, but sometimes they just mess you about. I don't know, this particular series, they're quite easy to get into, I suppose. That Retrofest one, the Retrofest Cheeky, that was horrible. And I've got a Retrofest Honky to do relatively soon as well. So, yeah, a bit of a nightmare there, I guess. Okay, so, first of all, here we go, figures out now. I suppose the main thing that usually takes up the time is getting the actual figure out of the bubble carefully. So we'll proceed to do that. And here we go. Here is the Terry Funk action figure outside of the bubble. Okay, so first of all, it's seeming like the joints are pretty good, but I have just knocked this wrist and it felt a bit loose. It's actually not that bad. So what we'll do now, as we always do, is we'll test all of the joints on this particular figure. Okay, so first of all, as we always do, we'll start with the head. Yep, that's pretty stiff. I was a bit worried there because it looked like one of these strands of hair was like about to break off already, which would have been a bit of a shame. While we're here, let's have a proper close-up of that. There we go, you can see it a lot better there. Very good attention to detail there. Carrying on, so that left shoulder is pretty nice and stiff. That's nice and stiff. The elbow is a bit loose, but I've certainly had looser. And the wrist is okay. The shoulder, probably the stiffer of the two. Nice stiff. Our elbow's quite loose as well, which is fine because at least this guy, like, this is not the kind of figure that's going to be like, you know, doing a lot of chair shots on people and bringing stuff down like this quite often. You know, it's a good thing. You know, Terry Funk was never about the hardcore wrestling. Anyway, so we'll do the ab joint. Oh, crikey. Yeah, that's a stiff one. Okay, but it does move. So it's not like my Wade Barrett, so that's good. It's nice and stiff. That's what you want, really. The waist, stiff enough. You know, it's loose when you. It's easy to turn, but you know, it's stiff enough to hold its position. And now let's get into these leg joints. So, seems to move quite well there. That knee might be a little bit loose. Actually, that entire leg might be a little bit loose. Boot seems fine. And this leg. Okay, so the legs might not be great, but I don't think his legs are too great in real life, to be honest with you. We've got a really cool figure here. Let's take a quick close-up of the Terry Funk trunks. As I say, this is like the kind of like Mattel paint. So, whereas in your Jack Pacific kind of figures, they sort of had a bit more strength to it, the paint and everything. It was kind of like a bit more, maybe even just sealed more. This is kind of like you touch it, you ding it kind of paint. So yeah, this probably are going to get some dings. They do already have some as well. Some factory imperfections. You can probably see some of which. Quite a big one there. Just looking on the camera, but you know, from a distance, you're not going to notice it really, and it's all right. We got this figure for a bit of a bargain, so you know it doesn't need to be perfect. There's the bandana coming off, and now we'll take a look at the other accessories. So, first of all, we've got the branding iron. Very interesting accessory, very long. So, just for scale. You can see the end, it's like double cross kind of thing. As I say, very interesting accessory. Okay, it fits very, very loosely into the hand. So, you're probably going to need to blue tack that during animations and whatnot, if you want to use it. So in this case, this probably won't crack out too often. But then again, Terry Funk probably won't crack out too often in my Fed either. And finally, we have the ECW title. So we'll take a look at that. So there is the ECW title. It's somewhat gorgeous. I've never been a massive fan of the belt, but this particular Mattel version is quite nice. And obviously we're just going to strap that over him for the time being. You can hold that, Tez. So final thoughts. You know, ultimately there's a few things I'm not huge on regarding this figure. But, come on Terry, hold the thing. There we go, that'll do. There's a few things I'm not a massive fan of in terms of this figure. But at the end of the day, I am quite a fan of this figure. And at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, it is Terry Funk, so I mean, it's fine. Like, none of the little issues are a problem. I really like the attention to detail with things like his thinning hairline and so forth. And ultimately, I think this is a pretty good figure. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have some interesting stuff to do with him. So what's Terry Funk going to be doing in my animation fed? Well, he's not going to be champion for ages in my friend JWG's fed. That's JWG on YouTube, who I would advise checking out. Very inventive guy, very creative stuff happens in his fed. But you know, I've got a couple of ideas for what Funk is going to do. You know, he's probably going to do some hardcore wrestling. I have an idea of teaming him up with the Honky Tonk Man and call the team Rhythm and Funk, because that seems like a cool thing. Me and a friend of mine have came up with like 1,000 different things we can do with Honky Tonk Man. That's the first sort of one I'm thinking about doing really with him and Terry Funk. So yeah, got some. Not really got a lot of plans for him. I did need the belt opening to use as the hardcore brand title in an animation that'll be coming up relatively soon, so I did need that. Basically the main reason for unboxing this guy, but yeah, I'm sure I'll have some cool stuff to do relatively soon. For now, that's more or less everything I have for today. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.